Right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Want to welcome everyone today to today's insight session. We'll be talking about stratum advanced filtering. The agenda today. My name's Adam Kurtz, and I'll be stepping you through the filtering concepts today. How to filter. It's a big part of the interface. So we'll spend time filtering on the different objects that you'll have within your view. You know, Dimension levels, of course, measures. Um, Perhaps you're using time as a level. We'll look at filtering that as well. We'll take a look at the filter manager. So obviously, there's a tool where we can go in and take a look at all the filters that are happening within the view. A very easy way to manage the filters. So you might have a lot of filters going on, and it's a great way to kind of get a bird's eye view of the filters that are happening within your view. Okay. Um, We're actually going to just step right into the demo. We'll take a look at the how to get into the filtering and basically how to define a filter, and then we'll get into more advanced concepts. Um, but basically, filtering. As you can see, I'm just going to run a view here. Pretty simple view. We've got DC warehouse and our regions. We can see that ship to territory salesperson's also in the mix. Um, no filters. So how do I know that? The filter manager here is not illuminated, so we can rest assured that there is no filtering going on here. But if we did want to filter, I'm just going to add product to this so that we can get a little bit more um, rows of data. So let's see, let customer. So here we have customer now in the mix, and if we drill to the regional level, we can see that, yeah, there's quite a few customers that we're looking at about 30 rows of total of 59 rows. So maybe there's a specific customer I'm looking for. Maybe there's an account out there that I want to highlight and start looking at their sales and their return amounts and how many products that they're purchasing. And I do believe we have product already in this view that's hidden, so we can unhide that as well. So I'll just show that. All right, so no filtering. So let's go ahead and add a filter. I can do a couple things here. I can filter on my DC warehouse. Maybe I just want to see shipments that are happening or sales that are happening outside a specific warehouse. So we'll go ahead and do that. That's actually a pretty easy one. And in order to filter, I can either come to the level here. I can actually come up here as well. Either way, I can right click and pursue the filter on the right click menu. If I do a filter edit, the filtering menu comes up, and as we can see, this is a pretty basic filter, right? It's We don't have a lot of entities at the DC level, so pretty simple to do a filter here. I can also move that and see what's on the screen here. Maybe I want to just filter on Omaha, so I'll select that and click OK, and so now Omaha is my only DC. So a couple things have happened now that I've added that filter. I can see that there's a visual cue here on the level telling me that indeed it's filtered on Omaha, DC 19. Another thing that happened over here is that the filter manager is now illuminated. So we can go into that and we can see that indeed there is the DC filter as well. A nice feature that was added in one of the more recent versions is this toggle for inclusion and exclusion. If I wanted to exclude that DC and show the other DCs, I can very simply toggle that to exclude and click OK. So now instead of that DC 19, I'm actually getting now just Charlotte. So probably more impactful, once you get into levels that are more populated. But that's a pretty nifty feature there that a lot of our users have complimented us on. It's rather, pretty simple, but nevertheless, and I'm toggling it right back to Omaha. Nice way to do that though, right? It's a quick way to maybe exclude or it might be a quicker way to approach what you're looking for. If I want to get rid of the filter, perhaps maybe I just want to clear that filter out and now look at both DCs. I can right click and go back to the filter and select the clear, right? So that'll clear out my filter. My filter icons are now gone. There's no red filtering visual cues happening. So I can see that we're basically back to square one. So that's filtering on a level that's really not as populated. If we go over to Soul 2, here we can do a filter edit, and we're going to get a different look and feel, right? So notice how this particular filter menu is, I don't have the Soul 2s ready to pick out, right? I have to actually search for them. So this is a way that you can present filtering to your users in more of an advanced concept where instead of looking and presenting thousands of rows of customers to the user, um, you're basically just saying, "Hey, look for go search for whatever it is that you're looking for." So if I want to see a customer with the name of Dallas in the description, then I can go ahead and type in the word Dallas and click on the little magnifying glass to basically execute my filter. And there it is. There's Dallas Foods. And so now I can add them to my selected list, right? I don't have to fill in a keyword at all. Maybe I want to just search for them in alphabetical order. And I can go ahead and add a few more in as well here. So now I've got 3 customers that I've searched for based on their long description. I could search for them in other ways as well. Maybe I want to see certain customers in certain state or province. I can certainly do that if I go in and go to my attribute for Soul 2 for province and state. Um, Maybe I'm looking for Illinois customers or any other state. You can simply type that in and it'll show you the customers that are in Illinois, and I can add them to the mix as well. So a nice way to, you know, search for things that you're looking for based on the different long description or short description or any one of the attributes for that particular level. In this case, it's customer sold to. All right. So now I've got 7 customers selected. I can go ahead and click OK. And there it is. So now I've got all the customers there within my filter. Once again, the visual cue pops up showing me the filter with those particular customers in it. Once again, the filter manager shows me indeed that we've got a filter going on at the Soul 2 level. And I can manage the filter here. Maybe if I wanted to add more things to it, I can change that filter, get rid of some of these or add more to them, whatever your intent is there. You can actually manage the filter here within the filter manager. Or if I wanted to just go ahead and whack that particular filter, just click on the X and click OK. But basically get rid of my filters. Another way to get rid of your filters essentially is through the filter manager. Nice, easy way to do that. Okay. So that's filtering on levels, and you can filter within the data grid. Another thing I can do is filter in my view filter. Maybe there's a DC I want to filter on. Maybe I don't want all this wasted space in the report. So I can actually drag and drop, for instance, DC 19. If I drag and drop that up to the view filter area, it's now filtering on automatically applies that filter because I selected 19 and dragged and dropped that up to my view filter. So now that buys me some space on the data grid, and it also performs the filter that I'm looking for Omaha. And again, I can go into that and maybe add in Charlotte or anything else to include in that particular filter. This is called the view filter, and I can add more levels to it. Maybe I want to narrow the filter down to a specific company or a division. Maybe I just want to see food service or grocery. And again, I can go in and apply a filter here just for the food service division. And as we can see that, the data pairs down clearly because it's a smaller division. And so, I've got a couple of filters that are going on now on the view filter. I still got the filter for Omaha and Charlotte, and then I've got also the filter just for food service. So that's what this data represents. It's showing me the region and the sold to for those two filtered situations there. So that's the view filter. It's a nice, powerful way to keep your filters intact, but not necessarily muddle up uh, the, the data grid or the report itself. It will buy you more real estate here. So if I wanted to add more columns of data, et cetera, I could certainly have more visible real estate that I could do that here. So all right, so that's filtering on levels. And I guess one other thing that we can touch upon here, and I'm just getting rid of the filters here, is you might have a user list that you want to filter on as well. There might be some user lists that you want to use. If I go back into my filter menu, you'll notice a little more button down here. If I select that, I can change the filter type. So right now we're just basically doing a filter on the different what we call members of the sold to level. If I want to change that to a user list instead of a member list, then I could go ahead and select that and click OK, and all my user lists would appear here. Okay, so I don't have any in this particular environment, but basically a user list is just a preset list of, in this case, customers that you would look for. And you can certainly build user lists rather easily. And I could go ahead and build one real quick. If I go to my user list menu here, you can give it a name, customer list, or whatever it is that you're looking for. How about we do like Illinois customers? Okay, and we could describe that as needed, or if we want to make it global. Um, it can be used as a secured user list as well, if you wanted to do that. You could have a dynamic user list here, or static. I can pick them statically, or I can select them dynamically, which would probably be a better way to go. For static, I would then go in and select static, and then down in the dimension, I would go ahead and select my sold tos. And then here's where I would go ahead and make that selection for my members. I click on the members box, and this looks familiar, right? So it takes me back to this particular screen where, again, I can go search for um, Illinois customers. So again, I'll go in, play the same game that I played before, look for Illinois, and then search for them, add them to my filter, and voila, I've saved this as a user list. So now I can use it. Back to home and go to recents, go back into my view, and I can use that user list here once I add in my sold to back in, right? I'll just go straight to sold to. Oh, wow, these new features are driving me nuts. The new browser features. So it's kind of cool, actually. So I'll just take sold to over here. So now we have a bunch of sold tos, right? And if I go back into my filter and I change my filter type under the more button, select user list, I should see that new user list called Illinois customers. And we click OK to that, and there, voila, there it is. So now we have a user list filter, right, based on Illinois. But the problem here is that what happens if a new Illinois customer comes in? Given that this is a static user list, guess what? They're not going to be automatically added. So maybe we change this to a dynamic user list, right, instead of a static one. So why don't we go back into that user list? We'll edit it. We'll make it dynamic. And then we'll write the expression for that filter. And we'll say, well, in all honesty, we want the state to equal Illinois. I don't think it's, so let's validate that. It looks good. We'll save that. And we will save this. And it still has the same member count. So that's 4 customers that it found based on my expression. So that feels good. I think that that is going to be a good one. And so that works. And again, if we go back in, we run this view and we add in our sold to, we can then go ahead and apply that dynamic user list. It's basically going to give us the same result. Okay, I'll use this other tab. And yeah, it'll basically give you the same result here um, as we saw before. So, good Lord, it doesn't even, just going to close that out. Okay, so sold to, there it is. We'll run it here just for our rows. We go back into our filter and we change filter type back to user list, and it's still there, right? So it's nothing's really changed other than the way the filter that we chose for it. This time it's a dynamic filter instead of a static user list. So dynamic user list, static use. So now if we have a new customer that we acquire down the road a few months, maybe a year or two, a month, whatever, that new customer from Illinois will automatically be added in to this view because the list is now dynamic, so that any customer that gets added to your customer master and that we suck into Stratum, then that becomes available. And once you start transacting, invoicing the customers, then you'll see that they'll start popping up automatically in your views. So that's the nice thing about dynamic user lists. Another thing we can do is filter on the measure. So quite a bit on the levels there, right? But also, if you notice, we have these measures here, return or sales amount for the current month. And so I can right click there and do a filter, edit, just like we did on the levels. But look, notice the big difference here, obviously, is that, if we're doing a filter on a measure, it's going to be quite different, right? So we have these operators. Maybe you want to see sales over a million, and you can very quickly get to that by just selecting the greater than a million and then typing in your amount that you want to see. Pretty easy. Again, if I go back in, I can see anything that's less than a million, perhaps, and then clearly, that's going to show me the customers that didn't make the cut. Another nice thing I can do is a top count. So maybe I want to see the top 10 customers. I go ahead and select top count, type in 10, and now I've got the top 10 customers for my current month sales. If I hover over that, there's the top 10 count. And also, again, in my manage filter menu, I can see the top 10 count under my data tab, because now we're filtering on a measure, or filtering on the data per se. And again, I can change that here. Maybe I want top 15 instead. Yeah. So that's nice. And yeah, that stays alive also as you drill. So if I want to drill into Wilder Foods, and I'll add, product, because it'll have more. And there we have, and so now it's just showing me the top 15 items for Wilder Foods. So the filter stays alive as you drill down to further detail, and just keep that clear that that's why you're only seeing 16 rows of, including the grand total would be 16. So it's the top 15 here. Of course, bottom counts, or if I wanted to see the bottom 15, clearly the numbers are going to reflect that. Another nice thing I can do here is, for instance, we'll do a recursive top count. So doing a recursive top count will keep the top count alive as I drill to more detail. So for my sold tos, this is my top 5 sold tos. And then if I drill on the header to product, And I now have it retained the top 5 sold tos. And now I've got the top 5 products for each one of those sold tos. And that's what we call a recursive top 5 count because it will retain that top 5 count as you drill through on the headers. It's nice. You're probably asking yourself, well, can I see an all other break here? And the answer to that is yes. I can come in, I can do a properties on my rows. I believe it's actually, yeah, there. Oh, that's the default. I think it's by row. So if I do that, yeah, there it is. So if I turn that on for product level, then now I get the all other break for my product level. So now I can see the top 10 numbers and then what the others are bringing in addition to my not top 5. So my top 5 products and then all other break for each one of these breaks. We got like, I'll show all the columns here or all the rows. So pretty nice looking report, man. I mean, it really and puts a nice fence around your data. And yeah, this would be a nice one to perhaps even graph for that, slap a graph on this as well. So, but yeah, that worked out really nicely. So that's filtering on your measure. And, again, you can clear that out as needed as well. So yeah, playing games with that, filtering basically on your measure is, a bit of a different concept, but definitely something that, is for top counts or bottom counts for what, those types of things. It works out really nicely. So, um, so that's filtering on measures, and then another thing that is available is this concept of an axes filter. So what does that do? Well, for instance, maybe I want to filter on both of these measures, right? And maybe I want to add maybe more logic to my filter. Like I want to see maybe sales over a certain amount and then returns under a certain amount. How would I do that? Well, I could certainly do something like this where I could add a filter to both these these measures, right? I could say, well, let's do a filter and let's do a top, or I'm sorry, sales over um, a million. So we'll do that. Uh, that was done at the product level, wasn't it? Okay. So here's my product or my sold twos that are over a million. And then here, maybe I want to filter on returns less than 30,000, negative 30. So there it is. So yeah, you've got an and situation here by default. So show me all the sold twos that have sales over a million and returns that are less than 30,000, negative 30,000. So that's an and situation. Maybe I want an or situation. How would I do that? Well, I wouldn't do it this way because there's no way I can do that. So I will go ahead and clear these out, get my data back on the screen. I would then, for that, I would actually use my axes filter. And given that I want to filter basically what's on my rows, I'm going to add a filter because my sold twos are on my rows. That's what I'm filtering. And then I would then go ahead and write this filter this way. So that, and then I could certainly write the same filter that we constructed, right? And what was that? Negative 30,000, right? I validate it. It looks good. I go ahead and apply it, click OK, and it gives me the same filter because it's an and situation, right? Also notice that for my axes filter, I now get a visual cue over here telling me that I've got a filter on my rows. So I can click on that, or I can come to my manage filters. Either way, I can then manage this expression basically. And if I wanted an or situation instead of and, I just simply get rid of the and I type in or, I validate it. Of course, it's fine. I click OK, and I get a different result because the logic is different. And some of your analysts may want that. And guess what? I can build in other columns as well. Maybe I wanted, um, also to build in that product count as well. Lots of cool things I can do with the axes filter. So this is a little more advanced, but certainly you can do more sophisticated filters by using the axes filter. And again, you'll get these visual cues up here for both the filter manager and telling you that indeed there's a filter on your row axes. So, and then finally, we didn't really see what time looked like, but we could have a time-based view as well and filter on that. As a matter of fact, that's what's happening here, is that I'm showing all my months here for all these different measures, and I'm using the view filter just to show current year, which is 2024, by the way, in this particular environment. But yeah, this is just showing me current year sales. And then if I, wanted to change that again, I could just, say, well, let's take a look at last year now. And so now I've got last year's sales up there. So again, using the view filter concept, filtering on time, in this case, based year, what's current, what show me last year. I can come over here and right click on my months and do a filter. Maybe I just want to see first quarter. So I'll go ahead and select January through February. Right. So, given that fact that the time here is just another level, we certainly have the ability to apply filters to those as well. And again, if I save any of this stuff, it will save, and I don't have to apply the filters again. The filters obviously save with the view, of course. So, as a matter of fact, when we ran this, it's already had the filter applied. So, if I rerun that, yeah, so the filter is saved within that view. So, as a pre-canned view. So. Okay, that's filtering. So now you can be an expert on filter. Make sure you check that out. Play with it. You can always call me or send me an email if you have any questions.